Hello again and welcome to a 3-month review of life with my company Tesla Model 3. Just give you some overviews, things I've learned, things I like, things I don't, and see whether or not the video will be useful for maybe you if you have the choice to be able to take a company electric car, but specifically in this case a Tesla. I'm going to try and keep this video quite short instead of giving you a nice big long video, which I very easily could. But to be fair, there are so many videos on YouTube telling you everything there is to know about the Tesla Model 3 that I'm not going to bore you with it. I'm just going to give you my perceptions of it, particularly based on the fact that I'm driving it as a company car driver. So if you don't want to go through any of the details, in short, would I recommend it? Hell yeah, it's brilliant. Honestly, it's that straightforward. The car itself is just brilliant. I love the way it looks. I love the way it drives. I love the way you interact with it internally in terms of the fact that even though you've just got this single screen, it just does everything. But if I go into more detail, the things that I think are probably most relevant for you if you are in the lucky enough situation that I was to be able to take a company electric car, specifically in my case the Tesla. Should you have a company car over a personal car? Hell yeah. If you get the choice, without a shadow of a doubt, snap their hand off if it's a car that meets your needs. And you can, obviously they're going to be very specific to every individual, but in terms of somebody who just does mileage and has a family like me and just needs space to be able to transport regular stuff, then an electric Tesla Model 3 has just been absolutely brilliant. My previous car, the Audi Q7, you can see on one of my other videos I did a review on, was a fantastic luxury car. It was brilliant, it was a joy to spend time in. But to be honest, as good as the Q7 was and is, we didn't need 7 seats very often, so it was a bit of a wasted feature in the grand scheme of things, and it was just a really expensive car to run. It's lovely, but I was averaging about 17p a mile, and fuel's gone up since then, so it's probably more like 18 or 19p a mile. That adds up pretty quickly, particularly if you got it and you're using it for work. I was using it for work where I submitted a mileage claim, and the company, their mileage rate, reimbursement rate was based on the government rate, which meant I got 11 pence a mile. So every single mile at work was costing me 6 pence, plus insurance, plus tax, plus servicing, and plus £300 per tyre when it needed tyres. It all added up quite quickly, but it was a hell of a car. But this, I've got brilliant practicality. I've got a huge boot in the Tesla. The front's pretty cool, all my cables are in there. It's really spacious in here. You can get 5 people in. The floor is a little high in the back, as you've probably seen in other videos if you're looking at Teslas. Because the batteries are below you, it means that your feet in the back do sit a little bit high. I think the Model Y will probably fix that to a degree, from the videos I've seen in America. It's just brilliant, and it's lovely up here. It's so luxurious. But the driving experience, I've got to admit, I hadn't driven an electric car before I got this car, apart from that test drive. And it's ace. Just to have instant torque, it doesn't have to think about the gears. You just put your foot down and it goes. So the particular model I got given is the standard range. So that's a rear wheel drive. I'm not even sure what the brake horsepower is. Some people say like 260, others say like 295. It's somewhere between the two. But an all rear wheel drive, single motor, 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. I think when people have done tests, it actually tends to be a little bit closer to 5 seconds, which is really quick. Considering this is the base model, it is a fast car. They have actually updated the range in the last couple of weeks, I think, where the standard range is no longer called the standard range. I think it's just called the rear-wheel drive one. And it's 0 to 60 is now 5.8 seconds, so it's half a second slower, but it now apparently gives you 300 miles plus of range, which is fantastic. Depends what you prefer, obviously. If you want to go fast, then it's a little bit disappointing. If you want to be able to go further, then happy days. The best of both worlds is, without a doubt, the long range. The long range gives you 0 to 60 in 4.2, which is nuts, and over 300, I think it's about 360 miles of range. It really is the sweet spot in the range. I would have loved to get one of those a company car, but it wasn't a choice for me, unfortunately. So I can base my views on this car. So 3 months in, the highlights for me, apart from the car itself and the you know, the layout of everything, which is great, as I said, it's just the electric car driving experience. I said once you get used to the fact that yes, you can accelerate, which is great, but crucially you get used to one pedal driving. Regenerative braking is game changing. When you're approaching a junction and instead of having to release you take your foot off the accelerator and then apply the brake, you just let go of the accelerator and it just comes to a halt. Think scale electric car. When you pull in the trigger, the car goes. When you let go, it stops. That's exactly how this car drives, and it's brilliant. Once you get used to it, it really is exceptional. And because it's got one gear forwards and one gear backwards, there's no thinking about it. When you want to accelerate and overtake somebody, in a legal scenario, obviously, maybe on a dual carriageway, you just put your foot down, and there's no finding the gear, there's no the clutch having to look and think, okay, these are your revs, this is where you need to be. It just delivers. It's amazing. It is amazing. And I'm gushing, but it is just phenomenal. And that isn't exclusive to Tesla. That's just the electric car experience. I would recommend everybody go out and drive an electric car if you haven't already. But if you can get one as a company car, particularly with the company car tax, as I mentioned on my car allowance company car video, which you can probably search for somewhere, I talked about the company car tax being the benefit in kind at 1%, and it raises to 2% next April because it's an electric car. So the company car tax for this car, for me, is just over £13. It's cheaper than Netflix per month, which I can watch on the big screen. It's a no-brainer. It's cheap as chips to run because we also have off-peak electricity. So we're on Octopus Go, which I would suggest to everybody who has an electric car, make sure you choose the right electricity tariff. Octopus Go, if you do choose to go with them, there's a link in the text below where if you use my link, then you get £50 cash and I get £50 cash, and everyone's a winner. But crucially, Octopus Go, they have a peak and an off-peak rate. So off-peak is midnight to 4:30 in the morning, where it's 5 pence per kilowatt, and the rest of the day, well, on my tariff is 15.8 pence, I think. I don't know what the rate sits at the minute, but the 5p bit is the important bit. So during that the night, I set the car, and you can set it on the car to charge from midnight onwards, and it'll charge it at 5p per kilowatt, and I'm averaging about 4 miles per kilowatt, which means it's costing 1.25 pence a mile to run, which is amazing. The only downside is, as said, and these are all, so far all these benefits are anybody who gets an electric car will benefit from that. The difference on this, because it's a company car, is of course mileage works differently. So it's about reimbursements and claims. So the way our company works at the moment is that I pay for all the power, so, you know, as if like you would have done with fuel in the past, but now I pay for the power. So at home, it's great. You can get the cheap electricity. If I need to really fill the car, then it might go slightly over the off-peak, but even then it's less than 16 pence per kilowatt, so it's costing about 4 pence per mile. When you start using public chargers, it starts to creep up. You know, a Tesla supercharger is about 35 or 37 pence per kilowatt. So suddenly it's like more like 9p a mile, which is obviously quite different to 4. The downside, therefore, is range. The standard range, they say, this one's a year old, it's a 70 plate, September 2000, and they say this is good for, I think, 240 miles. It's not. It's if you really, really drive it optimally, you might get 220 out of it, optimally, on a full charge. Which means if you're going out and driving and having a 250 mile or 300 mile day, you are going to use a public charger, in which case your cost per mile will inevitably go up. How you get reimbursed by your company, therefore, becomes really important. So most companies will follow the government guidelines, mine does. And the government guideline electric car is 4 pence per mile reimbursement. Now, if I'm charging at home, off-peak, happy days, I'm making money. If I'm charging on-peak, if you will, then it's essentially levelling out. It's costing about 4p a mile, I'm getting reimbursed 4p a mile. But the second I use a public charger, then it's costing me to go to work, and I'm back in that boat. I'm going to be moving over, because our company's currently trialling it, because more and more electric cars are coming on the market into as company cars, where they're going to get us an electric charging card. So we'll be able to charge for electricity used at home and electricity used out in the field, and then we won't have to declare and get paid back for business miles. It'll be the other way around. We'll declare private miles and then get billed for them at 4 pence per mile, which is going to be much better. Don't get me wrong, yes, that's more expensive than 1.25 pence that I'm paying for private mileage at the minute if I charge off peak. But because I do have longer mileage days, it means I'll be much better off. And I won't have that sort of like, oh, I don't want to use this public charger much because it's going to cost the earth. It'll just be a case of you know, getting used to the fact that if I'm driving 100 miles in personal mileage, it'll cost £4. It's no big deal. It's not expensive. It's a damn sight cheaper than its petrol equivalent, which is good. So I'm quite looking forward to making that transition. On the charging thing, and this is a Tesla thing, the Tesla superchargers are exceptional. I would recommend Tesla over anybody else right now because, one, I think the car's awesome, and don't get me wrong, I haven't driven other electric cars, and there's a few out there. Things like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 look phenomenal. I'm sure the new BMW i4 will be amazing. But the one thing Tesla has right now is its superchargers. You go to a lot of service stations, you may have noticed yourself, and there'll be like 20 superchargers and then 4 standard chargers for everybody else, and 2 of them won't be working. So there ends up being a queue there, and yet the Tesla, you know, you just drive it in, you drive it out, it's brilliant. Though Tesla are testing opening their supercharger network open to non-Teslas. I think they're testing it in Norway, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, don't correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong, but I think it's Norway at the moment. And I think Elon Musk's plan is to roll it out. When they do that, then that will be a massive step up for every other electric car manufacturer, because it makes a massive difference knowing you can just drive in, plug it in, get it done and get out. And range anxiety. You know, you hear about that before you get an electric car, and honestly, it's no big deal. You just plan. If you know that you are going to be doing more miles than the battery has, you just make sure you allow 15 minutes to pull in somewhere. This thing will go from about 12% to 60, 70% in about 14 minutes. It's not a big deal. You can park up, plug it in, go to the toilet, get a coffee, come back, unplug it, drive away. It's not a hassle. You just got to plan like you would any car, whether it's petrol or electric. But yes, would I recommend you go into a company car? Absolutely. Get it done if you can get an electric car, because the savings compared to driving your own car are immense. Secondly, would I recommend the Tesla? 100%. I think this thing is spectacular. When the Model Y comes out next year, which arguably, I think it's probably a little overpriced if I'm honest, but particularly compared to America, but it looks brilliant. And it is essentially this car but on stilts. I mean, I think they share like 80% of the parts or something. But for now, honestly, go and test drive an electric car. And if you can get one as a company car, absolutely get it done. I think that's it for this video, because I didn't want to keep it, I don't want to make it too long. I will maybe give you more detail if you guys want to hear more detail about the car. But yes, it's brilliant. Go and experience it yourself. And hope to see you soon in my next video, which I think I'm going to focus on, because we had installed in August a Tesla Powerwall, so battery at home, and some extra solar, and how that works with powering the car and powering the house is excellent. So I'll do that in the next video. Until then, take care, and yeah, go and drive an electric car.